now to maybe sing happy birthday with me to the birthday people is Congresswoman Yvette Herrell. Have you sung happy birthday to anyone lately?
Well, actually, we had a birthday in our office yesterday.
Well, good. So you're all sung out. Well, good.
We can sing again. I'll let you sing, and I'll just hum along.
Well, I know we've got a limited amount of time, so we'll do the birthdays a little bit later. But thanks for checking in with us today, and appreciate it. And one of the things that I think is on the top issue, it may not be on the mainstream media's top issue, but I know it is on your mind and on most of the constituents here in southeast New Mexico. Southern New Mexico is the border issue, and this is something that you've really been working on with your fellow Congress people to try to resolve. Kind of give us an update on where we are. I know the Title 42 thing is about to end, and just what is being done or what can be done to help our Border Patrol agents and our communities along the southern border with Mexico right now.
Yeah, it's very scary, and I'm glad you asked this because we all know there's a crisis at the border right now. But if Title 42 goes away, which that's that protective health order that allows Border Patrol agents to do a quick process on the border and then expel people back to Mexico or Canada if they're trying to come in illegally. When that goes away, this is what the consequences will be. Right now, there's about 8,000 people a month coming across the southern border. When Title 42 goes away, there'll be approximately 18,000. And that number is coming from Brandon Judd, the president of the Border Patrol Council. This is very frightening because it's not just the people. It's the amount of fentanyl, it's the human trafficking, it's the sex trafficking. It's really creating a pressure on every single community in the entire country. And I cannot believe this administration would compromise our nation's sovereignty by just going with this open border concept and not thinking that this is going to be a problem, compounding our crime, the uptick in crime, the jobs that we're not being able to fill, the money we're spending on the federal side of things on all of this. It makes no sense at all. But Gene, this is really a scary thought.
It is. We had Sheriff Mark Cage on the radio yesterday, and he was talking about the fentanyl issue. The Chinese are, I guess, coming up with the pieces and the parts, if you will. They're sending it to the cartels in Mexico, and it's just being flooded into this country. And he talked about the stops and what the sheriff's department and the drug task force is trying to do to stop this. With all of this evidence, I mean, there's even Democrats in Congress who are screaming at the administration about this.
Yes.
Why do you think this is all falling on deaf ears? They have to know what's going on. Secretary Mayorkas has to know what's going on. Why do you think they're not troubled by this, or they don't seem to be concerned about this?
I think this is clearly just all part of their agenda. I mean, they waged war on our energy industry day one. He campaigned on, open borders with no consequences, and that came directly from the president of Guatemala. The concern that these other countries are facing with people coming through, the same thing, drugs, everything else. But here's something that I want to kind of expand on what Mark Cage said. It is true, largely most of the fentanyl is coming from China, then up through our southern border. But here is what the American people don't understand or realize. Right now, it costs everybody coming across our border a minimum of $4,000, all the way up to $35,000. And again, these numbers are not mine. These are coming from the Border Patrol Council. So if we just take 8,000 people a month coming across at up to 4,000 and higher, the cartel's getting about $1 billion a month off of all this. I mean, they are the ones winning here. But here's what's happening. Now they are starting to do exactly what Mark said. They're starting to manufacture and make the fentanyl, so they don't have to rely on China. They can do it. And this is how frightening it is. There are communities in Mexico that their federales, their police officers won't even go to because the cartel own those communities. And the pressure we've put on our police departments, almost every one of them in the state is either underfunded or for sure undermanned. And on the Border Patrol as well, we've got large swaths of land that have no boots on the ground because we're utilizing our Border Patrol men and women as processing agents. And so I've asked the governor before, we're going to continue to ask her again to deploy troops from the National Guard down to the border. And when we see, Texas taking a real action in securing their border, we see that the movement coming to the west. It's coming through New Mexico, coming through Arizona, and up through parts of even California now. And it is frightening to think that, fentanyl killed over 100,000 people last year. It's the number one killer in overdoses for people between the ages of 18 and 45. And yet this government, this administration, and even our own governor, they just turn the blind eye to it. And the cost of this is enormous to the taxpayers, and no one wants to talk about it.
No, well, other than you and a few other folks and people
Mark
that,
and the law enforcement.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this lack of concern that's coming from the administration and other people within that, do we literally have to wait for the midterms so that we can hopefully flip Congress to get something done about this? And if that's the only thing that can happen, what do we do about these millions of people that have come into this country illegally over the last, year and a half, 2 years?
Right. Well, and certainly midterms will help, but also what would help is if the governors in every one of these states would actually start taking action and protect their individual sovereignty, because I think the federal government forgets that the states actually created the federal government, not the other way around. I mean, that's why it's called the United States of America,
right,
not just America. And they are failing miserably for the people of this nation and not holding up their end of the oath of to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our people. And clearly Governor Abbott is doing everything he can. But I think, not getting too into a history lesson today, but, Article 4 of the Constitution gives the states the ability to take action, protect their sovereignty, and yet this governor forgets, that we live in a nation that we have to uphold the Constitution. But here's what's interesting, Gene. I was meeting with Border Patrol agents a couple of weeks ago, and they told me that, yes, there are some National Guard troops on the ground in New Mexico, not very many, but a few, but they're not even from New Mexico. They're from other states. So that is a signal to how critical this issue is when other states recognize the importance of having more reinforcements on the ground to help our Border Patrol agents. And by the way, because of these failed policies and the pressure we've put on the Border Patrol, the suicide rate is starting to jump way up amongst agents. And it's just, the sad thing about it, it doesn't have to be this way. And I introduced the PAUSE Act, which would have allowed that Title 42 to stay in place until we were completely done with this COVID pandemic, until travel restrictions from Canada, Mexico, America were all lifted. We're still in the pandemic. Not yesterday, the day before, on the House floor, 70 House members got up and asked to have that bill heard and moved on the floor so we could get it over to the Senate. 70 times the Democrats rejected our request. So it just tells me that they're trotting right down this agenda of President Biden's and Nancy Pelosi's. And you're right, there are going to be people, I believe, that will lose their seats because they know this is critical, they know it's a serious issue, and they're unwilling to find the political will to help save America's sovereignty.
Yeah. No, it's really sad. There was a columnist in the Roswell Daily Record on Tuesday that was, in essence, equating the Ukrainian refugee problem with the illegals coming across the border from Mexico. There's no comparison between the two. People in Ukraine are clearly fleeing war, but most of the people flooding across the border from the south, most of them are not fleeing war. It's young males. It's almost like these countries are just emptying all of their bad actors and saying, send them to the United States so that we don't have to deal with them. Do you kind of see
Exactly.
that from what you've learned about the population that's coming across the southern border?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Plus the fact that when they get, they're getting phones, they're getting fed, they're getting, a treatment. They're getting housing. They're getting checks. They're getting, I mean, why wouldn't you come? I mean, that's why we're seeing such the uptick in family units. But you're right. Clearly, the unaccompanied minors, which are the young men, are coming, and we're finding out that a lot of them are working for the cartel. I mean, we are letting this government infiltrate our nation with who knows who. They're not really vetting. And yes, you're right. We have actually seen an uptick on the border for Ukrainians and Russians. And here's the thing. If someone is fleeing their country to seek asylum, the law says they are supposed to go to the first port of entry, and really they're supposed to seek asylum in the first country they come to from their country of origin. Many of them are traveling through 2 or 3 countries before they even get to America, to the United States, and then they're claiming asylum. And, of course, the percentage of those that actually really, truly are seeking asylum and may receive it is, single digits. I mean, this is a very low number compared to the number of people coming. And at this pace, Gene, we're going to see over 2 million people come into our nation illegally. That is more people than the population of New Mexico. It makes no sense that our government would just not even think this is a problem, when indeed it is absolutely critical. And it is the law enforcement, the small communities that are going to have the brunt of it. And then, of course, through the interior, as we see, Mayorkas, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Health and Human Services, they just keep flying people up to the interior, to, Pennsylvania, New York, Kansas, Kentucky. They're just sending people everywhere, so you don't know who's in your neighborhood. And clearly the drug issue is going to become even bigger than it was last year.
That's right. That's right. I know we've just got a limited amount of time left. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners this morning, Congresswoman?
Well, one thing that's kind of exciting is yesterday or 2 days ago, Kevin McCarthy appointed me to a conference committee. So the Let Us Compete Act, that was Nancy Pelosi's bill about China, which was horrible. And, of course, it passed the House on a party line vote. It went to the Senate. They've done some amendments to it. So what happens now is they've selected members from various committees to sit on this conference committee. So I've been selected to sit and represent the Natural Resources Committee, so that obviously we can talk about our natural resources, oil, gas, minerals, other natural resources that are so vital to our economy, to our national security, and elsewhere. So I'm very honored to get that appointment, and we won't probably start that conference committee till after the Easter break, but that made me feel really good, and I'm glad that they have the confidence in me to sit on that committee and go to bat for the oil and gas communities, and as well as our other natural resources. But we just keep plugging along, Gene. We just keep raising the red flag on issues that are harmful to our ag operations, to oil and gas, to our economy. I sent a letter to the governor yesterday saying, you've been in office over 3 years, and what have you done? We're still 50th in education. We have the highest unemployment rate in the nation. What's your game plan to move our state forward so we can compete with our regional partners like Arizona and Texas, Colorado? And how are we going to jumpstart the economy in the state? So I'm not sure that she'll respond to me, but we certainly put her on notice, because it's such a disadvantage for New Mexicans to be governed by a governor who doesn't understand economics and securing our borders. So we'll see if she responds. She probably won't, but we did put her on notice yesterday.
She'll probably send you a bag of weed.
Probably. She'll probably say, that's what we're going to do. Of course, I don't see how that's going to backfill lost jobs, and really, certainly there's going to be people that make a ton of money off of that. But is that really the direction we want to take our state? When we can't even recruit and retain good professionals or businesses because of our crime rate, because of our schools, because of our difficulty in doing business in the state of New Mexico. I don't think, marijuana is going to fix all our problems. So we're asking her to tell us what she has in mind to do for the people of New Mexico that deserve much better governance than what they're seeing out of Santa Fe, and quite frankly out of Washington because of this administration.
Yeah, no, it's kind of scary times, and we've got some interesting things coming up here over the next few months leading up to the midterm. So, Congresswoman Yvette Herrell,
Right.
Thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. Keep fighting the good fight for us in Washington, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again here real soon.
Sounds good. And happy birthday, everybody that's having a birthday. And you just have a blessed weekend, Jean. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. All right. We'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Congresswoman Yvette Herrell joining us here on the Good Morning Artesia radio show. So glad to have her with us here, and we do appreciate her time, as it is, like all of us, very, very busy right now trying to fight the good fight for us. All right, let's take a quick break.